We call them iminyaraks, but my mom and dad, they said, you kids always call them different. When we were growing up, we called them inyokulligaraks, like um, little monsters or little, uh, and um, and they said iminyaks are the ones that got drifted out to the with the ice in the ocean, and they've been drifting on the ice for so long away from people, and when it finally reaches back on the um, on on land and able to go back with people, they're a little strange, and so they called them iminyaks, and they were strange people when by the time they got back because they were away from people for so long. But anyway, this story comes from Molly Peterson's father, Awakana. That and he told this story, and he tells it sometimes during story time at through KBRW. And he said a long time ago, Inupiaq people used to cohabitate with the little people, Inukuliaraks. He called them Inukuliaraks, like what my parents told me. And so they used to hunt together, camp together, and they lived together peaceably. Um, and then one day, while this family was camping, and they had gotten some caribou, and um, the little people, the Inukuliaraks, man and wife and little boy, came to visit them, and they ate with them, and they were telling stories, joking around, and doing what people do when you're out camping. You're just having fun out there, and just relaxing after eating, um, and the little boy, the little people's boy, wanted to go play out, and he said, "Yeah, just be careful with the dogs." And so he, um, what he loved to do, what he thought was fun, was to, you know, climb up on the big people's sled, and you know how the sled goes up a little bit at the end. And so he used to go there, and from that edge he would jump down and go climb up again, and he thought it was so much fun. That was what he loved to do whenever they went to the big people, Inupiaq people. Um, so he was doing that, going up and jumping off, and he would jump a little farther, and the dogs, they were watching him, you know, um, jump off, run back up on the sled, and jump off again. And after a while, that boy was jumping farther and farther, and he didn't realize he was getting closer and closer to the to the dog, one of the dogs. And so um, he jumped real far, and that dog just grabbed him and gobbled him up. And and the other dogs um, started um, barking, and so all the people from inside, they came out to see what was happening, and they could see blood on this one dog, and and all the other dogs were just barking at this one dog, and that little the father of the little boy, that little man, he said, "Where's my son? Where's my son?" And they could see the footprints going back and forth onto the sled, and you could see where it landed, and saw the blood. And so he just took out his knife, and he slit the belly of that dog, looking for his son, but he was all chewed up and he had died. And um so they and that little man said, from now on we will never cohabitate with the Inupiaq people ever again. So that's why um, they no longer live with us. They appear to some people every so often, and but for the most part, they're living alone, by themselves, to their own people. And we know that they still exist. And what we always hear about them is that they're very strong. Even though they're little, they are very, very strong. They can carry a whole caribou. When a caribou is caught, they can carry a whole caribou to where they live, and so they are extremely, extremely strong. So that's why we sort of feared them, I guess, because they were so strong. And so there was something about the um, oh this is a true story. This one lady who now lives in Point Lay, and but she grew up in Wainwright, and she said her parents had died, and so they were living with their uncle. I don't know from if it was mother's side or father's side. So her and her younger brother were living with their uncle, and he often went out to go hunting. So they would stay by themselves, and she was old enough. She was old enough to cook and keep things clean, and so she was probably 11 or 12 and was able to do stuff. So and she was able to take care of her younger brother. And so she had boiled some tutu meat, and they ate, and they had some leftovers, and they just left it on the table, and she was keeping her brother preoccupied. They were playing, and um, they heard a noise in the kanitja, and looked at the door to see who was going to come in. The door opened. There was nobody there. They looked down. Here it was a little person, and and that little person was so little that he couldn't. He was even um, shorter than the table. So and he kept going on his tiptoes and kept looking at the food, and they knew it was hungry. It was hungry, and so and she, "Inerein, go ahead and eat." And that person just took some and ate real fast and was so hungry, and and he never said anything. He just ate and took some food with him and left. And so she she was telling this story, and she said she wanted to tell people in the community, but who's going to believe these orphans, the orphan kids, and who's going to believe them? And so she never really told anybody. And so she went to church the following Sunday, and Reverend Amawak, he was talking about his message that day was you must take care of each other. And if somebody is hungry, even if it's a stranger, feed that person. And so she knew that they did the right thing, whether she told that story or not. So she kept that story to herself all these years until she's older than I am, and she finally told that story. And so she said it's true. She she saw this person, and it was real small, smaller than the table. And so they are out there. They're still out there, and people have seen them every so often, but they're very quick. They're very quick. And then if you glance again and say, "Did I just see a little person?" You glance again and they're gone. And so, but people have seen them. And so those are the stories that I know about little people. Yeah. Hmm. And then there's stories about giants too. I don't have a particular story. Um, oh, yeah, there is one story about giant. This giant, he um, he uh, said that he liked to boast and say how strong he is, and um, this boy he used to want to sleep all the time, and so his so the community members were always giving his mom food to eat, and they made fun of him, saying, "You're so lazy. You're always sleeping." And but he couldn't help himself. He just had to always sleep, and so um, this one day, um, a group of people came and they had a giant with them, and they were boasting, whoever can wrestle this giant, will give them a lot of food and a lot of furs, and if you can beat him. But they knew that the most people couldn't beat him. So, and they're going to have to give them food if they lost. So, and and times were sort of tough. There were not that many animals during this time, and so um, most people didn't want to wrestle with this giant. But this boy came out who always slept, and he came out and he said, I can wrestle him. And so they laughed at him. Who's this young boy that always wants to sleep all the time, never even hunts? How can he ever um, um, conquer this giant person? So but they wrestled, and somehow that boy did win and put him down, and at a certain way that um, I think his arms were back. Um, the giant's arms were back, and so he couldn't do anything. Um, and so this boy um, saved their community, and so this group of people of strangers that came in, they had to give him some food and furs and stuff. So, and ever since then, that boy became their leader, and they started hunting and was a very good hunter. And so, but there were times when there were a few giants too, and um, so there are some stories about giants every now and then, and even in the Bible, they um, mention Bibles. I mean, mention giants, a city of giants that were conquered, and so there used to be giants in this world at some point. There were giants in this world.
Have
Yeah.
you heard of that? I have a book here. It's the ethnological results of the Point Barrow expedition. This one.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Somewhere in the end, they talk about when I think it was John Murdoch, yeah, when he came up here, the people at Novok would always carve this giant that could hold
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
an elver in each palm of his hand.
Uh-huh.
And that would be like in the carvings that they would do. Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah, I've in fact there's various stories about this thing. This story I've read, I think, where this boy was always sleeping, but then he conquered a giant, and then he traveled. Yeah, another version at the end is that he traveled somewhere and started holding the world, and so that it doesn't tip. And so that part I had heard. Yeah.
Look, here's one
Uh-huh.
carving.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see
Yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
in his hands.
Huh.
There's another
The version I've heard is that it was holding the world.
Oh wow.
Yeah. 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 I haven't seen that, and I have that book.
Yeah.
I do have it. I just haven't gone through it in quite a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
It's,
that
yeah, it is interesting.
you know that Kyriaki song
Yeah.
that the kids sing, Kyriaki.
Yeah.
So before it was like that tune, it had its own tune.
Oh.
Like it's in here somewhere.
Oh.
How the kids used to sing it.
Yeah, Point Hope people have a story where this guy they would see an island go down and come up, go down and come up, and so this is when the world was full of water. And so the man went with his harpoon and harpooned that island and brought it up, and that's where Point Hope land came up. And so that's a story that they have too. Yeah, and it's supposed to be a really good place to go whaling and stuff. And so I lived there for 4 years, 70 to 74. So I heard some of their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Another Tuluwak, a Raven man that Tuluwagrak, something like that. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but close to Tuluwagrak or Tuluwagrak, something like that, was the name of the man that he was a raven that became a man and harpooned that island and brought it up. And that's where the point of that land where they live came up out of the water.